Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 27, 2023 regular Weisburg Unified School District Board meeting. And you believe it's July 27 already? Unbelievable. We're flying. I want to welcome those online as well. Tonight, we have a special presentation on the Measure EE bond update from our bond program management team and the NAZ team. So looking forward to that. And with that, I will now request Monique to do the honors in the pledge of allegiance.
All right. Yeah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Roger. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wendy, do we have any comments from the public this evening? I think we may have one.
Yeah. Do you not have anyone online?
We have one public comment, Christina Jovera.
Welcome, Christina.
So thank you for.
Push
Push the push button. Thank you for letting me speak. So as we begin the new school year, I just wanted to say thank you to this board and to Dr. Silvers for your service and for looking out for our kids and their futures. The events of the last 2 to 3 months have activated many people in the Weisburg Unified School District community and sparked many good ideas, and I'm looking forward to continuing to get better and better and better. As a Weisburg mom, I wanted to let you know that I'm working with Da Vinci to identify ways they can add even more value to our community through adding more high-value community-based events, providing financial support to various PTAs at the school sites, hosting and supporting events and activities that are needed in the community for the betterment of the community, and hosting and supporting events that are needed in the district schools for the betterment of the schools and the students and families that you serve. As a mom of a student in the district, I'm very happy about the changes underway. I'm very happy about Da Vinci's willingness to support our schools, PTAs, and families. In the coming weeks, I'll be reaching out to each of you to see if there are areas where you feel Da Vinci's support could add value to our Weisburg students. Support that could, whether through its grant opportunities or funding of field trips or assemblies or any way that they can help support. The team working on this, myself and David, are all ears and we're really eager to help. We really want to do our part to make Weisburg the very best place to go to school, TK through grade 12. And we know that it takes a village. Thank you again to this board and to Dr. Silvers for all you do for our kids, their futures, and our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? All right, I think it's time for our special presentation. Welcome, Noemi.
Do we still have to introduce you every time? No, I'm just kidding.
So.
I do want to say, that we've spent, I say Noemi and Cherie and Elise have spent quite a bit of time going through our facilities, taking a look at the facilities in regards to the projects that you'll see here, and the agenda you'll see here, but also maintenance projects. So I'll speak a little bit more to that later, but as we get started here, we're going to focus on our Series A projects as well as the CTE studio, and go ahead and take it away, Noemi.
Absolutely. You almost read the entire agenda. So just like we do at every monthly update, we're going to start with an update on our bond projects. Obviously, our Series A will then cover the Weisburg plus Da Vinci studio. I'll then turn over to some general non-bond related projects, just bring you up to speed of other things that we're working on, and then we'll close with next steps. Okay, so for our first bond project is the network infrastructure project, which, as you know, falls under the safety and security project category of the facilities master plan. Some of these bullets are very similar. I try to keep it consistent, keeping some of these typical questions on the forefront. So $3 million of the bond has been allocated for this project. In terms of the two contracts that we were working with under this project, the first one was with LPA. we brought them in at May 22nd board meeting so they can perform a physical building envelope assessment. Basically determine if the current data center would be able to support the new investment, the infrastructure, and all of the equipment that was purchased. We have since completed the sidewalk, we've had design meetings, and I'm happy to report that on July 25th, as a matter of fact, just this week, we've received the draft specifications. We have, I already shared those with Amir. Amir has reviewed them. He's very pleased with what LPA and their consultant have prepared. Elise from my team has also reviewed it next. And I plan to have it all complete by this week. Our goal, I know Blake was also in the process of reviewing as well. We want to make sure we get as many eyes on that as possible. Okay. And in terms of the next project, or not in a separate but parallel path, we were working with IT management. You might recall that both firms were approved in the May board meeting, both IT management and LPA, to perform two completely different scopes of work. At the last meeting, for those of you that were not here, for those two board members that were not here, we mentioned that we were in the process of contract negotiations with IT management. However, earlier that day, as a matter of fact, at the same board meeting day, we were alerted that they were having issues getting professional liability coverage from the Hartford insurance group, which seemed odd initially because it's very standard. It's a very standard form of agreement that legal counsel has used on many professional services contract. But nonetheless, we gave them an opportunity to provide comments to see if maybe it was something that was misunderstood or not. We spent a couple of weeks, I do have to say, going back and forth, not only between IT management, the district, meaning us and AZ, and district legal counsel and ASCIP. Jason was very much involved in the process. Be here right now to attest to that. But he was communicating directly with ASCIP. Cherie was communicating directly with Yuli's office to try to come to an agreement, because IT management made it clear that reviewing the contract, the professional services agreement was fine. They had no issue with the agreement itself. Where they were having issues was obtaining the insurance coverage, and that was by their third-party insurance company, which is the Hartford Group. Again, we went back and forth for a couple of weeks. At the end, we determined that we could not reach a resolution. When we brought it up to the board's attention at the last board meeting, some of you indicated that if for some reason we could not reach an agreement, that we should definitely look to another company just to make sure that we would bring someone that would be able to adhere to those contract requirements. We would not waive them. I myself have adhered to those contract requirements. I have the same professional liability agreement, and I had no problem using the same insurance company, which again, I'm not sure. But IT management was very gracious. They did spend a lot of time trying to make it work, but unfortunately they had to step back. We have since developed in collaboration with Amir in RFQP. We're going to formally go out in the street. This is our timeline. We're going to issue it on July 31st. I have completed the final iteration and have sent that to Amir. It's now in Amir's inbox, basically waiting for him to review, and then it'll go to Blake for final review as well. But our goal is to issue by Monday. If not by tomorrow, we can get everyone a review by tomorrow. And our planned award right now is September 14th. If we stay to this track, and I don't see why not, we should be able to commence services by September 25th. The way we're treating it a little different is because now we're formally going out for an RFQP. We've attached the contract agreement. So we've made it very clear in the RFQP that any firm wishing to respond to this RFQP, they have to make sure that they not only review the contract thoroughly, but they review the insurance requirements, and they run it through their insurance to make sure that they'll be able to respond and adhere to it.
What does this do to the timeline for the project?
Remember, we were running parallel paths. LPA and IT management were basically at the draft specifications. This is exactly where we should be with IT management. We had, LPA had a 70-day timeline. IT management had a 90-day. So in 20 days, we would be at this point.
But
with
if
that.
you
So
push for the project timeline back, like, are we gonna?
I mean,
in terms of
we've
completion-
lost time because our goal is as soon as we have this implementation plan, we're gonna have them assist us in developing bid specifications so that we can put this out to bid and start finding a way to phase the work so that we wouldn't have to wait till summer. That is still the goal, for us to commence as soon as possible on September 25th, if not sooner. And, see how we can face the project so that we don't have to wait till summer 2024.
Thank you.
The timeline that I've given the respondents is that, and again, we gave them 90 days. So we have to be complete. If we start on the 25th, we'll be done by December 22nd, I believe, is the timeline. So that we should be able to bid early winter and hopefully start even before spring break at some of these sites. So at least by time. Yes.
Part of their response would have to include working while school's in session? Are there special behaviors or timelines or times a day, whatever?
Not for this initial firm. This initial firm is doing the assessment, the design and implementation.
Okay.
And they're gonna assist us with developing an implementation, a rollout plan.
Okay,
That's when we're gonna determine phasing, what sites, and in collaboration with Blake and with Amir, we'll determine where could we start, even while school is in operation. There's ways to create, do the work and don't do final tie-in until we can shut down.
So no disruption.
Exactly. But again, it's too early for us because this is not the firm. They'll help us develop it, but they're not the firms that will be installing or constructing.
We do want to look at that because, it's unfortunate we lost the summer, so we lost, the 40 to 60 days. I think it's 40 days, Nelson, is that right? 40 days. That we could have really shut down a majority of it, so we're gonna have to try and figure out how to make up time there and try and still do some work, whether it's a temporary system of some sort, but we'll look at all of that and see if it's even cost effective to do that.
But the good news is that we'll at least have, be able to be done with the work in the data center, so, which is the most important one. We'll complete the data center, we have the specifications, we can put that out to design, and I'll get to that in the further slide.
is there, so we've already ordered equipment,
Correct.
already. So does any of this work relate to the equipment we've already ordered?
Yes, so we're providing the bill of materials, everything that was ordered as an exhibit to the RQP, that way whoever, not only that, but I'm also adding as an exhibit the draft specifications for the data center, so that everything's transparent, they're able to see what the district is doing, what the district has purchased, and how we can roll it into this fund.
So none of this work does a technical evaluation of the equipment we plan to install?
They're gonna review what was purchased and provide recommendations whether we need to add more or whether we don't need some of it. Unfortunately, hopefully everything, remember, some of these firms are the same firms that are gonna respond, with the exception of IT management. Amir was very selective as to what was purchased. I am confident that everything that was ordered will be able to reuse.
So one of the other projects I know we're working on, and I don't know if it's involved here either, is some sort of standardization of parts and implementation approaches, I guess, and so on.
It's building standards.
Building standards.
Yes.
So is that a totally separate
Mhm.
activity from this?
That's later in the presentation. It's also LPA, but I'll get to it. But yes, we are doing that as well.
So you're gonna talk about how that all ties
Mhm.
together? Okay.
We'll move on to the next slide. So the next bond project is the Del Air Elementary School Safety and Security and Minor Modernization Project. Basically, you can see the budget for this, including soft costs and hard costs, is roughly $8.8 million, leaving basically $6.6 million for our construction budget. We issued the RFP to our architectural and engineering pool of architects on June 14th. We received 4 submissions 4 firms responded. Those RFPs were due on June 30th. 3 of those firms moved on to interviews. Unfortunately, one of those firms was disqualified for failure to include the, what is it? The conflict of interest. Thank you. And I just said earlier, the conflict of interest statement, which is required in the RFP. We plan to award to the selected contractor today if the board decides to move forward. And the selected firm is NAC Architects. For that panel, we had Blake, we had Jason, we had Nisha, and myself in the interviews. And we were very pleased with all of the firms that were part of it. I'm also pleased to report that I negotiated the contract with NAC. They were already low to begin with, and their amount was $707,000. I got them down to $678,000, resulting in almost $30,000 savings to the district. So I mentioned to the team, we're definitely off to a great start. Now I have personally worked with NAC and with many of these firms that have responded. They're a great firm to work with. So here I provided a draft project schedule. You're very welcome. And this is the only project that I've submitted because this is the first project that we actually have a firm that has confirmed our timeline. Not exactly, but very close. I've actually compressed the construction down to 6 months. That's why I put a note at the end, construction duration may exceed to 9 months. In fact, all of the architectural firms that responded said anywhere from 9 to 12 months for this project. I have done much larger projects in 6 months. I think we can do it. But I will give them an opportunity. Right now, this is the schedule that I had developed, and all of the firms also provided schedules. So I was able to go back and confirm some of these assumptions, and we're fairly close. So this is the one I'm going to give them because this is the one that we want to, so that we can get this project as soon as possible. Or at least January 2025 completion, 2026, I'm sorry, versus much later, like the other firms were suggesting.
We think much earlier than that, though, right?
I'm sorry.
We'll finish much earlier.
No, this is it. This is as much as I can compress. Now, some of these, like for example, programming, we might be able to get done in 30 days. Right now, we're being a little conservative with some of these. Like for example, line item 52, I've added all 3 design phases. That accounts for schematic design, design development, and construction document for a total of basically a year. I think we can complete that in 9 months. None of the other firms agreed with me, but I'm sure we can push it. So. And I will provide similar schedules as soon as we start receiving more proposals for other projects. Yes.
I was gonna ask you, Melanie, do you think some of the longer timelines would be driven by staffing on the part of the contractor or the vendor here? Because a lot of times lately, it's the fact that you don't have staff to do the work. So do you feel that in accelerating the timeframe that they do have the staff to meet that?
They do. They capacity was actually one of our interview questions, and they were on top of it answering. They even had a chart to outline what projects they were working on, what other projects, and the level of capacity they have available. In this particular case, reviewing NAC's schedule, I can tell you why they added the extra time, because they allocated about 2 to 3 weeks after each phase for district review. So they want us to review all their plans for the schematic design. I will be involved in every, exactly, we don't need additional time. So by the time they're done, we should be able to say, you're approved to proceed to the next phase. Doesn't make sense to me, but like I said, we'll be able to compress that.
No, is it typical that it's a year, and I should have asked you this
Yes.
earlier, is it typical it's a year from October to October for design? For a minor mod?
9 months is typical.
That's where you can.
I can compress, that's what I said earlier, that right now, I'm showing the year, because most of them had 12 to 14 months. I showed 12 just to give them,
Okay.
but I'm going to further compress.
Compress that.
Yes, because my experience, this size project, we can complete in 9 months.
Yeah, okay.
Eliminate the time for district to review because district will be
You're
involved.
saying construction, you're saying the design.
Design, correct. Same thing for construction. I've already compressed that to 6 months. They're thinking it's 9 to 12. I don't think so, not for this size of project.
You think you should compress our DSA review and approvals?
Thank you.
That I can't control. I'm having miracle work.
The other part of that, where you have your design, it's sort of end to end with the design and then the approval, isn't there often iteration between those phases? Like you submit a design and DSA says, yeah, we don't like this
No.
part.
Just to us, just to the district. You don't submit to DSA. So it'd be actually right at the, after schematic design, we have built into the timeline, you don't see it, there's additional subsections. I mean, I can show you the full agenda, not agenda, schedule. It's literally as big as your pro forma, but in 2 pages actually, for every other project that I've developed. We have a preliminary meeting with DSA. NAC will be there, the district will be there, and we present the project and the scope of work and any potential challenges are discussed with DSA. I don't expect anything out of the ordinary for this project. It's very simple. I mean, not simple, but you know what I mean. Straightforward,
I
thank
have
you.
a bizarre, not bizarre, just a basic question backing up. We looked at this many, many months ago.
Mhm.
I'm not remembering the specifics of what we're approving here. And I don't, and I think I mentioned this at our last meeting, and I know it's a minor project, but what are the details?
Absolutely. So minor modernization, the reason we call it minor is because if you remember that the facilities master plan categorized each site. Basically, category 0 meant no scope. The site is in good condition, excellent condition. Category 1, minor repairs are needed. Category 2, a little bit larger repairs. I can't remember the exact wording, but category 4 meant it was in need of a full modernization. Del Air falls under the category 3, some 2 and some 3. Part of the reason why it's not a full modernization is a minor modernization. And what that entails is basically coming into every classroom and doing a refresh. That means new ceiling tiles, new carpet, new tackable wall panels, new paint, potentially mechanical systems, AV technology. If I'm assuming a lot of these HVAC units, especially at the site, will have to be replaced. The exterior, you're looking at all new roofing. This is one of the sites that requires a full replacement of the roof, not patching and repair, but a full replacement. Like I said, HVAC units, the curbs where they sit, exterior stucco, painting or patching and painting. And one of the things that we specifically that stood apart with NAC is that they brought the idea of outdoor learning, the outdoor learning concept, that indoor-outdoor. So, which is also incorporated in the facilities master plan to some level, but I think NAC will be able to take it much further, and we would like to take the opportunity to incorporate that as part of this project as well. In terms of the safety and security aspect of it, do you want to say something?
You can finish that sentence.
In terms of the
Okay,
safety
finish the comment.
and security aspect, you're looking at your access controls, your key cards and your doors. Potentially, we might have to replace some of the doors at the sites. We don't know, depending, once NAC does their site analysis, their complete site analysis. You're looking at your point of entry at the main administration office, the buzzer, to be able to see who's coming in. That way someone doesn't have to come in every time and peek who's there, open the door. It'll all be automated. Perimeter fencing, make sure that everything's good. Just all the items that were discussed in the facilities master plan, and I'm sorry, I just going off the top of memory.
Impressive, it's on the top of your head.
Yes.
And this 6.656,250 number is pretty specific.
Yes.
Obviously, there's a detail of this. I don't remember seeing that.
The facilities master plan had a higher cost for the actual modernization, and to be honest, this takes 2 separate projects, because the facilities master plan had modernization costs and it had a safety and security aspect. Combined, much higher. Again, remember, we're limited with our first bond issuance, which is why 138th Street had to wait until, initially it had made our list for our first Series A projects, but brought the budget for this to only $4 million. There was no way we're gonna be able to accomplish all this with $4 million all in.
So Neil, just to kind of clarify, I think there's a long list of things that are typical in a minor modification or modification modernization, sorry, that we're looking at. So once the designer actually sees that, they're gonna incorporate that into design. And we want them to include a design that maybe has a little bit more than what we want. You know, we want to see a pretty good scope of work, and then we can start valuing things out. So to answer that question specifically is a little bit hard right now, but once we see, you know, when we see the carpets and the furnitures and other things,
Yes.
you know, we want to see furniture in there, then we'll be able to start pulling things back if we need to.
I think we're asking for the scope of work that was bid.
Nothing has been bid.
Okay.
I don't know, understand.
Let me share something just to
Yes.
clarify.
Okay.
I mean, I was thinking of your question earlier.
I'm sorry.
Then how do we have an estimate of what it's gonna cost if we don't have a?
It's not an estimate, it's a budget. So basically, it's money that we have available left. You take all the Series A priorities,
Mhm.
$3 million for network infrastructure, $8 million for Del Air, $8 million for the 135th and Aviation sports complex, and then $2 million for the Weisburn soccer field. That totals your, and now one more project that I'll be introducing later today, totals your $21 million that you have available from the bond for this particular Series A round. Once we actually start designing, then we'll determine at the first stage at schematic design, because after every single stage, the architect will be able to provide, or per contract, will be providing a cost estimate for every single stage of design. That way, if we're way off our $6 million budget, then at that point, like I said, some of this stuff will have to scale down. And we'll be able to complete perhaps with the next series when the next funding round comes. But these are not cost estimates, because LPA did include cost estimates in their master plan, but they're wrong. Exactly, nothing has been designed. They're boxes on paper. It hasn't been designed. By selecting NAC tonight, you are authorizing the architect to begin design so that we can start getting a much clearer picture of cost, schedule, and what the project scope will be.
And 10 to 12%, I'm making these numbers up based on just looking at these calculations, of architectural cost is roughly normal for a construction of this nature.
Yeah, there's a sliding scale.
They base it on the Office of Public School Construction sliding scale, 12% for modernization and 10% for new construction. 12% is for modernization. However, we made it very clear that all architects in the pool, they are not to follow the OPSC sliding scale. All of their proposals that are coming in, it's a lump sum. It's not to exceed amount, because we've been burned by firms in the past where they base it on the OPSC scale, sliding schedule. They give you a fee now, and obviously as your percentage increases, they come and ask for more. And then when you bid it out and it comes in higher, they come and ask for more. And the design has been done, long done, but yet they see an opportunity to get more money. We're not gonna allow that. We stopped it at the beginning.
Within the framework of expectations with additional controls, we're simply setting a budget here. We haven't specified it, but this is why I was struggling to get my head around that which we haven't done yet. I understand that now.
I didn't understand, I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Yeah, that's why I was not getting it. Like, what are we approving? Now I'm understanding. This is very helpful. Thank you.
And just as additional information, the first phase here where it says site analysis and programming, that's when Naz, Noemi and the team will be working with the architects, NEC, to really define the overall scope
Mhm.
that made up what's in the facilities master plan budget of 6.6 million. That will be presented to this board
Yes.
before it goes into the other design phases of schematics, design development and construction documents. That's the full production.
Correct.
So this board will see it,
Mhm.
review review the scope in its entirety before it actually goes into the full-on design. This board will also be able to maybe pick and choose and look at some items, maybe we don't want to do those based on the needs and the site analysis.
The other thing is that as part of this site analysis program, you will not have a ROM. You'll have your first cost estimate after schematic design. That's the only
That's
thing.
been designed, yeah,
Mhm.
correct.
And
Correct.
one thing to add to that is in that programming stage, you know, there will be input from the district and also the site. So there's a presentation to us, there's now input and buy-in from the site.
I have a much better picture of the plan, starting from the LTA work in the master plan, getting to today, making estimates. Here's our budget that we've allocated because in the first tranche in the bond, this is what we have.
And we have to give I'm sorry, John, we have to give architects a budget to be able to provide a fee proposal. If we leave it open, they're gonna come in with a,
Here we go.
exactly. So that's why it's not just throwing numbers out of a hat, really. I based it on, okay, how much did LPA, I kept saying ROM, rough order of magnitude. I'm sorry, I should have used the full terminology. But there was a science behind this number. The amount of money that we had from the bond, what LPA estimated, and what we could actually accomplish for this project. Now, we know it's gonna change a bit, but in talking to NAC during and I mentioned this to Blake during my contract negotiations with the principal of the company, she was confident that it was a healthy budget for this level of, and they went out to the site twice, so they were very committed to this project. Yeah.
So, was the data center upgrade included in the master plan?
This is where we're gonna get a little bit creative because the network infrastructure is included. Fortunately, the data center is at Del Air. And the data center will be modernized. So there you go. It falls under the master plan. Oops. So yes,
Yes-ish.
Okay, yes.
yes,
For,
absolutely.
we're modernizing.
Modernization at this site.
Modernizing the IT
Yes.
infrastructure. It was part of the master.
Good,
Well-
okay.
But is it the $8 million
Mhm.
modernization and then $3 million on top of that of
Mhm.
what I call network infrastructure? right? Okay.
Correct. And remember, not only are we under the modernization category, but we're also under the safety and security portion. So we're already covered in every angle.
Covering
I am not concerned at all.
covering priorities.
Yes. Moving on to the next project is the Whitesburn High School soccer field. This is a $2 million bond project that falls under the exterior play surfaces, play fields, and hard courts category. The RFP was issued to our pool on July 7th. We had a sidewalk with all of the firms that participated on July 17th. Submissions are due this Friday. So we will be back I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, next week on Monday. Yes, I'm way ahead. Well, not way ahead, it's Monday, July 31st. And we're planning to conduct interviews the week of August 14th. We're hoping to bring this to the board for approval at the September 14th with a start date of design services on September 25th. We would have brought it sooner if there was a later board meeting in August, but since the board meeting is so early, we can't. Sorry. So here's an aerial site plan.
It's currently the dirt field.
Yes.
Soccer.
So it's an aerial image basically of the existing site conditions. So you can see the red area represents where this project will be. And this is an exciting project for the district. I think it's been long awaited. And it'll definitely improve playability, safety, performance, and we're happy to get it going as soon as possible. Now, just to be clear, I did not provide a design schedule for this because once I receive the RFPs, I'm going to see where they're coming in with their schedule. because this is a much smaller scale project, it should not follow the same as the 135th and Aviation. This should be a much shorter process. Which leads to the 135th and Aviation. We changed the name to Sports Complex because previously we were calling it field renovation. This is not a field renovation. This is a full reconstruction or creation because there was not a sports complex before. This falls also in the same facilities master plan category of exterior play surface, play spaces, fields, and hard courts. We have allocated a budget of $8 million with a construction budget of $6 million. This RFP was also issued July 7th, sidewalk also July 17th. Submissions are due on Monday. Follows the same exact timeline as the other project. Like I said, except for design and construction, we'll make sure the Whitesburn soccer field is completed much faster.
Sorry, does it also include parking at the?
That's my next slide. So I provided the facilities master plan renderings. To the left, you have the existing site master plan. To the right, you have the proposed. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to be exactly like this, because remember, facilities master plan is just a very high level concept. Once you have an actual firm design, it can only get much better than that. But yes, the plan is to have fields for ample space for multi-use of these fields for literally baseball, softball, and youth soccer as well. And some of the amenities that we're looking to include is sport lighting, parking. All the parking there will have a warming kitchen, a small concessions area, just basically for warming purposes only. Restroom facilities, a utility closet, a storage facility, and that's the beginning until we actually bring a firm and develop that further.
Is that
Corner,
is that a lower level parking, is that a new spot too?
Yes.
Okay. I don't
Yeah, I was
remember
just
that.
curious how many parking spots.
Let me get to it, right there. I wouldn't rely on these. This is very high level concept. We will know more once we start design. But per the master plan, it was 2 different parking locations.
I was just curious how many parking spots had been at the old location,
Oh,
like
I
at the
see.
old location. Not necessarily anticipating how many are there, but just curious.
Right. Well, you can see the small parking lot from the old one, right? Right
Was it
there.
just that though? It goes all the way, see down that strip?
Yeah.
There was parking there too.
Yeah, I don't remember that lower level parking, but I like it that it's.
But remember, it's multi-use, so if you have multiple sports going on at the same time, the softball parents can be parked on the upper lot, and if you have soccer going on, they can park in the lower lot.
So is this it looks like 2 soccer fields, 1 big soccer field running across, right? Is that, this is the way I'm
That's in the
interpreting
high
that?
concert design.
And then a baseball field,
It was supposed to be regulation
all this.
They don't meet CIF requirements, that, we were very clear that they have to meet CIF requirements. It'll include a dugout, portable bleachers, it'll be truly a little sports
Yeah.
complex.
Just to be clear, the CIF, the important part to note here, CIF would be only for softball. And then also for the larger soccer field, you see across, it's running, I guess that's east to west. Then you'll have your youth 8U, I believe is what the standard is, that goes north-south, the 2 little soccer fields you can see running north-south. And then in the, the southwest, on the southwest corner there, you could see a Little League overlay. That would then allow for a variety of Little Leagues and then I believe all the way up to like a 50-70 juniors type practice field or game field. You can run a T-ball game or basically a very Little League youth sports baseball.
The same size as the current Dana baseball field, that smaller one, or it's more the softball field?
It would be probably more, I don't know exactly, but it would be something that would allow for baseball probably and a little league type softball program. So in other words, that we have to try, the goal here is to make this so flexible that you really could use it across multi-sport.
Right.
This is a softball.
Right, softball.
Or a little league baseball. It could be little league baseball.
No, the big one.
The big one is softball, but I say that, to hesitate and say that softball field could also be used as a little league baseball field if it needed to be.
But not
but not high school based, no high school baseball, right?
This is definitely in the weeds and don't go in depth, but I'm assuming there's removable fencing for that would be somehow.
Sure, yeah, some sort of role,
So as you can make the soccer field, then you want to use baseball, there's a fence.
right, something, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what that would look like, but probably stakes that you can then.
Oh,
put a
and that's all
section
part of the
fence in.
design. They know the goal is multi-sports.
Tricky part's gonna be all those lines.
Right, yeah. I know.
Crazy.
I know.
It's just like Dana right now.
They're temporary lines.
It's Dana, we use that for baseball, we use it for softball, we use it for soccer, it gets used.
Just like
at
one
all-
middle
just like
school.
the- Yes.
I remember those, yeah.
Two questions. Is there a specification for a type of turf?
That is also being developed under the building standards and design standards that you were asking, that LPA is helping develop, but we have some recommendations from other districts that they've used and are extremely safe in terms of playability and shock.
Another question, you said lighting,
Yes.
so what is, like, the whole thing?
It hasn't been designed yet, and
Okay.
it'll be in collaboration with the district.
I would say that, yes, the goal would be for design to show lighting of the whole facility, and then should we then need to
Scale down.
scale down, or where there's some concern about how much lighting that is, then we could obviously have that conversation and start striking things, but just to get the design for the whole thing and see where it goes.
I know there were some community concerns about parking
Well,
and lighting and things like that.
Technology has improved significantly with lighting, especially for football field lighting. So you can imagine for smaller scale facilities, it's extremely, they have shields, it's directional, so that they have studies of nighttime versus light. It has improved significantly.
And I would add too, that there's definitely multiple camps on that, folks that really want the lighting, because you extend the playtime, and you have your little league practice longer, your AYSO, and then you have those that are more concerned about, so I think we have to find that happy medium. And part of it could be, we can program lights to be off by, hey, I'm just throwing out a time, 8 o'clock, we'd have to have a policy in place, that we would then adhere to dark time, when we shut these lights off.
We don't want our night sky impact.
I think that was part of my.
That's the dark sky ordinance.
That was also part of my question about the parking, because folks were wondering how many folks were gonna be using this facility, and so that's why I wanted to know how many spaces we had originally, so that folks could understand the impact on the site. That it doesn't look like it's either gonna be the same or less parking than was previously there, potentially.
And again, this is not your final layout.
No, I
The
understand.
architect should, if priority is to improve the amount of parking because of all the sports and multi-use sports, then they can certainly get creative and find ways. I do want to just point out that, for example, the modernization at Del Air, that would have been, I carried a line under the schedule for entitlements, and I put next to it notice of exemption. Generally, we can just exempt that one. That will be a much shorter entitlement CEQA and California Environmental Quality Act process. This one, because we're completely changing the use of what it was to what it's now going to be, we're going to probably have to do a full study. Not necessarily a full environmental impact review, but definitely bring in environmental company to do an initial study, because they'll look at lighting, parking, traffic, noise. If we're gonna have a PA system, the scoreboards, all that.
I think Cherie had recommended that we build a structure, and so we pushed back. on that.
Indoor, yes.
Parking structure.
Stop creating. I'm taking notes.
I'll move on to the next slide. I think Blake will wanna say something. Here,
Oh, right. So. What am I, teaching conversion, yes. So I wanted to share, we are looking pretty strategically at how, as best we can at least, at how we're going to increase for our TK program. Over the next 2 years, this pocket, or this population of student is going to get younger and younger, and to the point where all 4-year-olds will have access to our pre-K program, our preschool program, as well as seeing a number of the current class size requirement is a 1 to 24. And by, I believe it's 25, 26, may have to change that, but I'm pretty certain it's 25, 26. that number goes 1 to 20 with 2 adults in a classroom. So not only are we going to see an increased number of students, but we're also going to see, less students per teacher or per classroom. I say that to say we're also in this unique situation because we have about 40% permit. So we're trying to, so we have to just be a little bit more strategic, maybe a little bit slower in rolling this program out, just because it's a little bit harder for us to know exactly how many students we're going to see in the TK program coming in. It's not like your typical school district, where you're in, where it's really a neighborhood school district or a straight neighborhood school district, and you could make a little bit better judgment. You have a little bit more data to be able to make a decision. So we'll see this year, but we are seeing an increase of likely 2 classes of TK this year at Cabrillo, and likely going to have 3 more. So in doing that, part of the master plan program, in general, the overall master plan had us creating I don't know if you recall, it had us creating. Are you going to talk into that? So should I stop?
No,
And you want
but I can show it if you want.
Okay.
Go there. There we go.
So we had this additional, you can see on the right side, up towards the top on the field, you can see there were 3 together right there. You can see the increase of 4, it looks like 4 classes.
Yes, 4.
For TK with the restrooms and all of that. Well, when we went to a full day, when we got rid of early bird, late bird, we actually alleviated a lot of pressure on the classrooms that were our CDC classrooms. I believe there's 7 classrooms back there, 6 in an office that you could see with the shadow there. That's a little clear there, right?
Yeah.
And
A
so
little bit more clear here.
So what we're proposing is that instead of actually doing new construction at $5.5, $6 million, we could actually much less, for maybe $1 to $2 million, actually outfit those classrooms to be appropriate TK size just by moving some walls and some registers and things like that in the ceiling, air conditioning, maybe some sprinklers. And for potentially, hopefully, $1.2 million, we could actually create another 4 classrooms.
So it'd be 4 classrooms?
We believe so.
I think that's great.
Since they're TK classrooms, they would be available for right at school to use.
Correct. Right. So you don't lose the after-school program space, yeah.
Right now, that building G is currently underutilized. It's only used after school and before school. So this is a perfect opportunity to maximize the use of that space, save bond dollars, and use them elsewhere.
Just a quick, sorry for this quick diversion, but just very quickly, at 20 to 1, at 20 per classroom, and 2, that sounds like a losing, there's no way we can pay for ourselves. We're gonna be subsidizing TK from everybody else.
I should say, well, first of all, there's funding that we're waiting to get some more final numbers on TK funding, but also it's not 2 teachers in the classroom, it's a teacher and a support staff.
Okay.
So it actually does, it does pencil out at 20. It's pretty even though. Yeah, it's pretty even. Yeah.
Thank you.
So it does, yeah.
So for this site, we've allocated $1.2 million. Again, this is not an actual cost estimate. This is just a rough order of magnitude, just so that we can get something to our pool. We issued the RFP on July 10th. We had the site walk at the same day, July 17th, as the field projects. And submissions are due on Monday as well. So a lot of work is starting very soon. Yes, we'll be interviewing firms the week of August 14th. That's why we didn't put an exact date, because we will be interviewing for 3 different projects. We plan to award at the September 14th board meeting, also to begin design services for this project on September 25th.
And just to point out too, that this is one that's actually more time is of the essence. We actually want to be done with this project to start, not this coming school year, but the next school year. So we want to be able to open these classrooms in 24.
And that was
25.
clearly stated in the RFQ that went, RFP, I'm sorry, that went to our pool
24, 25.
to open.
Yeah.
So to your point on the previous thing, this one doesn't have to go through the CEQA study and all of that.
No, but it'll be exempt, but it does have to go through DSA. So there is, but it's such a small project that hopefully we can reduce. Well, I don't have control over DSA, but we can cut some of the.
No one has control.
No one. Yeah. Absolutely. Not even DSA. I'm gonna turn it over to Sheree now.
Thank you, Noemi. Good evening, all. So I would like to give a brief update as to where we're at with the Wiseburn Da Vinci CT Studio project. We have been reporting on this project at previous meetings. Since that time, we have received proposals. The RFQPs did come in on July 7th. I'm happy to report that we did receive 5 submissions. One firm was disqualified for not meeting the minimum requirements of our lease-leaseback RFQP. For there, the remaining 4 firms, submittals were reviewed by an independent review committee. That committee, included 3 members. And upon scoring of all those, they then reviewed the scores, and it was determined that we would interview the top 2 ranked firms. Interviews were conducted this last Monday. We did have a panel of 5 members, so 3 members from the Da Vinci schools, and Jason from Weisburn, and then myself. Upon completion of those interviews, the panel did select Erickson Hall Construction as a top ranked firm. I did enter into negotiations with Erickson Hall Construction for prelim services only. So this is for pre-construction services only. So they would be coming on board to review the approved DSA plans, to provide an estimate for the project, and to put together a schedule and a procurement schedule for long lead items. For those services, they originally proposed a fee of $41,198. Upon recommendation, I did enter into negotiations with them, and I'm happy to report that I was able to reduce their fee to $29,616 for those services. So resulting in a savings of about $11,500. We then took the recommendation to the Da Vinci board last night. We presented the recommendation and read in, the selected firm recommendation, as well as the cost for prelim services, and the board did approve proceeding with that. So the next action will be to come to the Weisburn board on August 17th, at which time we'll be presenting to you a recommendation to approve us entering into the site lease and facilities lease for pre-construction services only.
What would that include?
So it's pre-construction. So they would be doing a estimate based on the DSA approved drawings. That way we can get a true estimate as to what we feel the phase 1 project is going to cost. From there, they'll look at a schedule. So they'll put together a construction schedule. So we'll have an idea of how long the construction will take to commence. And then they'll also be looking at procurement of what the long lead items would be, and constructability if needed.
And we had a good experience with our Erickson Hall in the 135th memo.
Yeah, we did.
So, very good.
This is great because this is the, if you remember, in the previous procurement, we only had 1 response. Here we had 5 responses, and obviously then curtailed it down to the top 2. So I think great job.
And also just a consistent negotiation. I'm sad to Noemi. I know I do want to point that out. It's a big deal. You know, that we're able to negotiate prices down and say 30,000 here and 12,000, 15. So it's a really good prudent activity. And you've been very successful at it. Thank you.
There, question on the authorization for award of a leaseback. Is the legislation, do we have to award preliminary services and construction as a board agenda item concurrent as it comes to the board?
So we will only be entering into your prelim services contract.
I know that's what we'll be doing. But are we required to do both as one package with the future NTP and GMP?
Not required. So it,
Okay.
I will say that you are going to find that some general contractors prefer that you enter into the full site lease and facilities lease, and they will not proceed even with prelim services. However, legal counsel, that is not a statutory requirement. We can enter into a prelim services agreement only. And then the site lease and facilities lease would then be entered into, the full site lease and facilities lease would then be entered into upon approval of a full GMP.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to just some general updates that are non-bond related. Joanne, you had mentioned or asked about the development of design standards. That we brought in LPA for that effort as an extension of the facilities master plan as well. We had our kickoff meeting on May 22nd. We've already met with various end users, to go over the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, architecture, building interiors, hardware, site landscaping, landscape materials, playgrounds, irrigation, low voltage, security, IT. It was 2 full days of meeting with different end users. The overall process took 70 days from start to finish, and we just received, as a matter of fact, the design standards this week as well. So we're in the process of reviewing. Elise has already thoroughly reviewed the design standards, has already started sending comments to LPA, and again, I'm next. And moving on to the next topic, at the last board meeting, I mentioned that communication is going to be key with all of the projects that we have going on. At the last board meeting, I shared with you I was working with Erica, your PIO, on developing that newsletter. Since then, on July 1st, the newsletter went out, highlighting all of our great projects that are coming up, as well as we created a Measure EE website, where all of this information will be constantly updated. So our goal is, every month we're updating not only you, but we're updating the community as a whole via the newsletter and via the website as well. We'll make sure that that's current. In September, we'll be meeting with the Bond Oversight Committee as well. And then anytime we meet with them, we'll make sure that we're adding the agenda, the meeting minutes, and any handouts into the same Measure EE website, so that anyone from the public can find anything that they're looking for regarding the bond in one place.
I know, Dr. Silvers, you and I talked, and we've all had various conversations about revisiting infrequently, but revisiting paper in communicating with the community. Is that part of this equation at all?
It is actually, that's something Erica's working on. We know that we used school news in the past and it just was ineffective for lots of reasons. And so she has some ideas. I'm gonna guess that maybe more of a January timeline, just by the time we can get the material together and get the program together and decide how we're gonna do it. But then it would be then we could do more of a quarterly or twice a year type release by paper. And we'd have another group to, company or service actually deliver those out to our community.
The other thing that we plan to do once the projects are further along in design and we have renderings is to develop banners so that we can post those large banners that you can hang on the, construction zone or even at the perimeter fencing, letting the community know that, your Measure E tax dollars at work, this is what's coming up. Here's a really nice rendering to give them an idea of what's coming. So those are all ways to keep the community informed. Next steps, we're going to issue the RQP, like I said, hopefully by Monday, if not tomorrow, by Friday, this Friday, for the network infrastructure project. We will finalize and complete the design standards that LPA submitted. We will also finalize the data center specifications. And we will hopefully bring forward at the September board meeting recommendation for the selected firms for the soccer field, for the 135th Weisburn High School, the 135th and Aviation Sports Complex, and the Holly Glen Elementary School TK conversion project. You have the board workshop today regarding the solar project. I'm assuming that's good to continue to move forward to the August 17th board meeting. And if so, we're bringing not only the solar projects contract, but then we'll also, as Sheree indicated, the facilities lease and the site lease for the CTE project. And we will kick off our design for Del Air Elementary School. So I'm very excited to finally get going on a project. So much of it's pre-work and anticipation to finally kick off is definitely something to be happy about and excited about. And our next progress update is August 17th. All I have.
No, let me have a question. Do you have any general comments you want to make about the presentation we saw earlier about the solar installation?
Personally, I've been working with them since Blake engaged the company in April. To be honest, at first I was a little, are they going to be good? Because they seemed like a little pushy in the beginning, but that's only because we had 2 weeks to be able to submit the applications to SCE for the NEM 2.0. Made sense. It didn't click right away. I'm being fully transparent. After that, I've had numerous meetings. I meet with them sometimes twice a week. especially this last few weeks, meeting with them and Tim Cardy's team to make sure that we got to the point that it makes sense for the district. Personally, I feel like they're legit. They're not, this is not my first solar project. I have installed, when I used to be a school district employee, I worked at Saddleback Valley Unified. We installed it at all 34 sites in my district with one company. Not the same company, but I understand the process. And I did the same for Tustin Unified. I was there and installed all of their solar projects at every single site, and they're all similar carport projects. So this is not new to me. Their process seems valid. The numbers seem valid. If we can just get the financing numbers, the final numbers, I was really pushing to hopefully go out and get a lender RFP before the board meeting. I was really pushing for it because I knew that's exactly what you would ask. But because Tim Cardy really only had 1 month, he wanted to really get a taste of SiteLogic to see if they were what they appeared to be, if they were legit, basically.
So with your prior implementations at Saddleback and
Yes.
Tustin Unified, so they're actually it's been installed and it's all operational.
Yes,
Has
at
it
least 10
been-
years.
Has it been beneficial? Have they realized the savings and
Absolutely, and they continue. Now, I left Saddleback in 2016. So I have not stayed in touch, to be honest, but I know that when I left Tustin, we had done 80% of their sites and they were waiting to see how those played out, and then they came back and brought in the same company and completed. So obviously the savings are there. And that's what many school districts are doing, really, because it makes sense. And if it pays for itself, it just seems like a no-brainer.
because up to now, we've investigated doing this sort of work numerous times. It's never penciled out.
Again, technology has improved, costs have drastically improved.
Well, and the IRS program.
In all those rebates. Right.
I would add to like because the board did ask, probably back in 2018, I think in my first couple months to look at this, pretty carefully with Vince Madsen at the time. And at that point, the leading delivery method was a power purchase agreement, and it just didn't.
That's what I did
pan
on
out.
Saddleback, but
Right.
only on Saddleback. At Tustin, they paid for it out of the bond.
Right, and so this though is not that, right? So now we're actually purchasing the equipment.
But I was being jocular about a squishy, but in truth, can we get something a little more formal than I'm pretty sure this is what we can get?
Well, if you recall, the first company that SiteLogic brought in just to answer questions, they didn't know we were gonna go with them. Ultimately, the district was going to go forward with their financial advisor. But they brought in Oppenheimer. They came up with the exact same number. So in talking to both independent firms, they agree that it's a very, they call it a predictive rate, and it's very consistent with what the market is currently.
Yeah.
And if it goes up and down, it'll be slightly.
And if I may just to say that Tim was with a team, so it wasn't Tim, there was another gentleman, and I'm
Rich.
sorry, Rich Calabro,
Calabro.
who was part of the team. He focuses really on this type of financing, and he was actually very confident in a 4.2-ish
Yes.
rate. So I think it's pretty, with a lot of confidence, I think we're gonna be within that, ballpark, so to speak. It just seemed like all the arrows were pointing towards that. So I would, I'm gonna say it hopefully, because I don't want to come back to the board and say it wasn't, but I think that most of the markers are leaning towards that being a pretty accurate assessment or
The
estimate.
other thing that we can do, if for some reason and now that SiteLogic is not here, my job is to protect the district, not their company. You can do it contingent. I would approve a contract that is contingent on financing making sense. I mean, obviously, we'll let legal come up with the correct terminology, but you can make it contingent. You can approve the contract, but it has to be contingent on financing making sense for the district. Because if they don't, there's no commitment and you can walk away. Exactly.
Maybe we would look at probably financing and performance.
Yeah, productivity, yeah.
Well, and that's my question. If this were to move forward on the 17th, whose service and contract agreements would we be using? Atkinson's template or SiteLogic's?
SiteLogic will likely send their their standard form of agreement for solar, but we will go through Hugh Lee's office so that they can review it thoroughly, mark it up, redline it. So that's why I asked if that is still the plan to move forward, so that come tomorrow, I am emailing Hugh.
Right.
I'm emailing SiteLogic, I need your contracts today so that they go, because we have a very short window of opportunity to redline and come to an agreement. I don't know that Hugh Lee's office has specific solar. I mean, they might.
I think they do. But the areas on performance are a big deal,
Mhm.
you know, because if it doesn't generate what the numbers on that spreadsheet are, then it doesn't pencil out.
Right, you lose.
And then who owns the risk when it doesn't pencil out? I want to make sure that we take a look at those.
Well, the guarantee is 90%, and it'll be stipulated in the contract. That's what they told us.
90% is necessarily where we should.
Well, no, but
I guess I'd like to
high
have that
number.
study
Yeah,
to see what that looks like and what other districts have done with those percentages. For example, Long Beach Unified has also done hundreds of these projects.
yeah.
I don't know that they've accepted 90%.
Okay.
To me, that seems like a little bit too high of a risk.
We can request, I can request copies of their contracts from recent projects.
Let's just take a look.
Right,
at
that are apples to apples, because this is a tax exempt unit. So first things first, I need to find something, or even a bond funded project would be similar. PPA, it'll be a completely different contract.
Agreed, it has to be
Yeah.
on procurement, and
Exactly.
otherwise the numbers and the performance guarantees go hand in hand.
And the good news is that they provide the energy management, that dashboard that we keep, and that is very telling, because we'll be able to monitor. And the reason it's added value is because the district doesn't have an energy management position, someone that could sit there every day and monitor how all of the, where the utilities are coming in at on a daily or monthly or weekly basis. This is a service that will be provided, and it's baked into the 5-year initial contract. And then at that point, we can determine whether the district wants to maybe hire or reassign one of the M&O and add that as their duties, or continue with SiteLogic, so that we can keep an eye on production, not just the first 5 years, but the entire term.
I think we could have a further conversation on that,
Mhm.
because when the companies propose these 30-year agreements and they're not responsible for the management, then the risk and the repairs turn over to the district. And then we have a bunch of projects.
Absolutely.
If we don't have staff to do that right now.
Well, it's two separate contracts, I'm sorry. One is for maintenance and operations, the management, and the other one is the energy management. It's just making sure that it's the system is doing what they told us it would do, to keep it simple.
Okay.
They want to keep that's why they provided a cost for the M&O, because they make money by being able to prove that what they sell to districts
Yeah.
comes to fruition.
We're saying similar things because if the performance and the risk is on the vendor, then they're gonna do that anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's to
Absolutely.
their advantage to do it, otherwise
Right.
they're losing money if that system's not performing
Exactly.
versus us having to manage it for them.
Mhm.
So if we could just take a look at that as we move forward, those are some other questions I'll ask. And I'll be
Absolutely.
looking at the sample contracts.
Of this actual, I mean, we're not their first
I
installation,
know.
so what's the track record of other installations?
And that was the question I asked, and that's when they told me that 90% or more. To be conservative, they keep it at the 90, but they generally are able to guarantee higher than that.
I like the simplicity
Mhm.
of the pro forma they gave us, but it lacks a lot of detail that would be, so let's say it is 90% performance. If that's guaranteed, then that should be our number, we're doing our calculation at. There was no 90% option there.
Most conservative.
And there was 5 years of maintenance, and then it's 30,000 beyond that. Does it go up every year? What happens if we put that in for energy management?
They had included,
For
so this is-
5 years, I'm not trying to beat them up.
no, but I'm clarifying that initially,
For the maintenance, they have the cost.
Energy management.
The
Yes.
energy management they did.
right, and that was at David Casanoga's guidance. They did have the numbers for all of them, but because they could only by law included in the loan for the first 5 years, David asked them to remove it and treat it as an optional. Don't force the district. This is not something that they have to do. They were showing it on the last iteration, the pro forma that we saw, the first one, included every cost. And it was a much longer, pro forma, but at Tim's and, Dave's guidance, they wanted to simplify it to just get rid of the nonsense. There's some stuff that, you know.
So for me, I mean, I think this is, you know, and we reviewed this in detail and presented it. I think we all understand. I think one of the items I think, Joanne, you may have mentioned is I think that concerns me with regards to this project is really, and I'm not just, you know, there's risk on our end and we need to be a partner as well, is a timeline. Because at the end of the day, it's like what Roger brought up, the rebate is.
The 3.9,
significant. That
yes.
3.9 is critical to the payback. Otherwise, the payback, the 20-year payback doesn't make sense to me, right? So.
No, your savings would be after year 21, basically 21 and on. I mean, it would still be savings, but it's a wash the first 20 years.
So to me, it's critical that we have a schedule. Those are the things I want to include in that contract. And then it's a partnership. So there's things that we have to make sure we respond to.
And we have that. We have a very detailed schedule as well that we were going to include, but we initially were told we only had 1 hour. We knew that's why we pushed that schedule to the next meeting, but it's not only just phasing, it includes everything in that initial from and design, finalizing design, submittals to DSA, procurement of long lead items. It has all of that. It's 4 pages.
Okay.
Very
So that's
detailed.
critical.
I've already reviewed it. Mhm.
So the
Go ahead, Joanne.
The other thing that concerns me, and I work in the space business, right? We own a company that makes solar cells. Boeing does. Those are space qualified solar cells. They're not used for home use. But I do understand very clearly the supply chain problems, not with the solar cells themselves so much, but with the components that go into the solar cells. I'm not crazy about Chinese solar cells. So if that's where we're going, I would vote against it. I would like to know
Okay.
in advance where we're getting our parts.
Mhm.
And if they say, well, you know, the Chinese parts can get here faster, we know, da, da, da. Okay, well, what are our alternatives? What are the costs of the alternatives? And can we still get this rebate, whatever? I mean, I just feel the schedule is just, it's so tight.
It's extremely tight. I have to agree with you. So there is, and that's why I brought it up as a caution, because if we stick to this timeline, we can make it, but if we start adding more steps, there's no way we're gonna make it.
So my concern is that the trade-off would be we'd have to get parts, components that I wouldn't want in order to meet our schedule.
Or if for some reason the new administration, if that happens, decides to wipe that, we go in with the understanding that the first 20 years is a wash. You're not losing money, but you're not making money, and you're still doing the right thing.
Have to accept that.
Come year 21, you're gonna see significant savings. That's, we're gonna see a lot of money coming into the district. So it still makes, in my humble opinion, it still makes sense as long as we understand that that's the only risk. You're not going to be out $3.9 million. You're just not gonna see those additional annual savings for the first 20 years.
And it would be just for the sake of clarity and the sake of being, you know, transparent, it's my understanding that SiteLogic is going to use Chinese parts. I think that their plan is to bring solar. So I think we need to kind of know that upfront, because that was their,
Read between the lines.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah. Including meetings we've had with them or heard them have conversations with.
It's a performance thing. I please
No,
don't want
it-
anybody to
it's-
think that there's any other.
And you have experience.
I absolutely have experience with this. And don't feel it's a great way to go. I just don't.
Point taken.
The reliability is not there. The long-term reliability, the availability of parts, the stand behind your product, all that sort of stuff is not there.
Joanne, you bring up a good point, a great point on the reliability too, especially if we're looking at potentially starting our payback at year 20. If that reliability is not there, then why do it? We have to have at least go in with the best hopes that it will be there
Oh,
with the best
absolutely.
equipment. So
Absolutely.
Well, and if we can.
And so you need something that absolutely has
I
that
agree.
sort of reliability, performance reliability in previous installations that you can actually use as a the yardstick or as a measurement point.
The other option I see, and it was not discussed, I mean, it was partially discussed, but perhaps it can't happen as part of Series A. You could, under Series B, do a payment, a prepayment. Make sure that we add it into the contract that maybe, year 7. Generally, what I used to see in solar contracts is that you have 2 options to do prepayments, year 7 and year 11. You can still write that into the contract and that RFP that Tim is going to send out to the lenders, that the district will have 1 opportunity or 2, if you would wish, for prepayment. And we can take $3.9 million or $4 million or $2 million from the bond to help pay what in the event that we don't get the IRA. But you still want to see those savings annually. So there are some options. We just didn't get into all of it because we had such limited time.
I do like the due diligence conversation we're having, but the thing that does excite me about this is it's very rare that a board or a decision-making body is in a position to give a gift to the next generation. And this could be a $1 to $2 million annual gift to the next generation, assuming we vet it appropriately. That's, to me, that's pretty exciting.
So in just listening to my colleagues here, I think that, one of the conversations we're having here is that because of the product and the material and equipment, that maybe there isn't anything that says a district could specify that the equipment, the product should be from North America. We can certainly do that. This would be understanding, these may alter a little bit based on, and I think it seems like we're okay with that.
That might bring
because
the
we're
cost up.
comfortable with reliability, right? So I think you need some kind of guidance so you can move. right?
Absolutely.
And
And it will
Neil,
change
to your point, the only way we bring a gift to future generations, if we do this in a way that's maintainable and that doesn't wear out and just turn to crap.
We completely agree. That's exactly what I said.
And to do that, you have to have the infrastructure that is replaceable, that's durable, that's interchangeable. It's just,
Like you said, we can specify that, we can make that request, just like we can make the request that the financing or the contract is contingent on financing. And I will also request from our neighboring district sample contracts that have similar projects, just so that we can compare.
and you sort of what their parts are too, what.
And where they were, yes,
Right,
yes,
thanks.
I will look at all those same concerns. Yes?
Noemi and Sharif, thank you for the wonderful presentation.
Thank
You guys have been busy this summer.
Yes.
Thank you both.
And I just want to say.
Hey, I am so glad that you're working with us. Thank you very much.
We look for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Blake thought he was gonna do all this himself.
You saved your life. Or no.
We saw this right.
All right. All right, I think now reports and information from board members, and we'll start with our vice president, Mr. Roger McLeod.
Thank you, Nelson. Couple of comments today. Wanted to just share with everybody. Hope everybody's enjoying their summer. Stay cool, stay out of the heat. Look, as you can see, the district has been really busy as well with a lot of great movements in terms of our facilities and projects moving forward. I really like the update, but also the information in the website and the newsletters. I think it's incredibly important to share with our community all the great planning and all the work that does happen within the district behind the scenes. So thank you, Noemi, and thank you, Cherie, for all the wonderful work. And also for all the procurements that you're leading with architectural firms and contractors as well. I think that's one of the things that we pride ourselves here at Wiseburn is that the only thing we promise vendors and consultants is a fair opportunity to compete. And thank you for developing such a straightforward process for everybody. And it's a little bit sad when some folks get disqualified, but those are the ground rules. Those are everything's in the documents up front. So please read your documents, and we look forward to receiving your proposals as well. We have, I believe it was 3 that are due on the 31st, right, next week for architectural services. So really looking forward to seeing who those firms are and who we work with.
And we might have some of the 8 firms that will submit for both field projects for the Wiseburn soccer field and so it might be one firm for 2 projects.
Yeah, it's not precluded, right?
Right.
Okay, no, thank you for that. So, let's see here, my final comment for today, really looking forward to continuing our conversations with our Da Vinci partners as well. Earlier I said we had our next 3x3 meeting on August 24th. That would be a Thursday, but it's actually on August 25th on the Friday. So we're looking forward to continuing that conversation. Haven't been able to meet, since our last meeting because of the summer and the end of the school and everybody's busy calendars, but we're really looking forward to reestablishing that and continuing to develop our agreement and a really positive working relationship to move forward. Again, that meeting is on August 25th, and I look forward to that meeting as well. That's all for me.
Thank you, Roger. Dr. Golden.
Well, thank you very much. Happy summer, everybody, as well. Thrilled to see all the routine maintenance happening this summer. Thank you, Blake. You've given us an estimate. We're right pretty well on budget. We appreciate that. I'm particularly excited about the washing of the walls on Weiser Middle School. That's it kind of rejuvenating that facility. Exciting to see. I also want to give a kind of a brief update that effectively the new strategic planning committee, unfortunately, Rebecca, we missed you unfortunately there, but we did make some progress. I don't know if Blake, we talked about that maybe at a future meeting, but we will basically have the foundation of the full strategic plan elements to present. So pretty exciting and really neat, inspiring stuff. Great work by the Guiding Coalition and all the staff in creating ideas that actually coalesce to, we'll be using the input from everybody to get there. So very much an inclusive process. I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Rebecca.
I'm gonna bring this closer. I'm told I can't hear me online, so here we go. Happy summer, everybody. I hope, we've all had some travel plans and relaxed and bringing it back into it, right? Including myself. So thanks for enduring my absence last time, I guess. I am so grateful to live in and serve this community that has embraced the teaching of concepts related to racial equity, protecting our LGBTQ+ students, supporting the mental health and social emotional learning, and generally providing a comprehensive public education to our thousands of students across the district. Frankly, our willingness to rename our schools to ensure that we were embracing our shared values and learning from history shouldn't be extraordinary. And yet, I've watched in horror what is happening in other districts not terribly far from here, including kicking out the superintendent of public instruction from a board meeting where he sought to speak on behalf of student safety and well-being. I look forward to continuing to work with our administration staff and my fellow board members and the community to ensure that we are providing that comprehensive public education that acknowledges and embraces our shared values, history, safety, and well-being for all of our students. As I said at our June 6th meeting, encouraging greater acceptance and support for all of our youth, including those who are or perceived to be LGBTQ+, will make our community schools and other settings safer, better places for all of our youth. As the mom of 2 elementary students, I know firsthand how critical it is to provide a school culture that is nurturing and safe for everyone. A school culture that values each child for who they are and acknowledges their differences and similarities. So just want to say how grateful I am to be here and doing this with all of you. That's it.
Thank you, Rebecca. Joanne.
Oh, cool, Rebecca. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. The time goes by. How can this happen? So I want to thank Blake and Monique and Wendy for single-handedly running the district at the moment. Because if you notice, the front chairs here are very empty. And so I know the work hasn't stopped. Judging from the discussion here at the agenda, there's a ton of decisions that are being reviewed. They're being brought to us as a board to understand, to review some more. Thank you for doing that, because everybody else is off doing something else. And you're here still supporting us, so appreciate it. And the same is true for the full board that's here tonight. It's important to take vacation, it's important to take time off. So I hope that at some point your chair is also empty so that you have a chance to take some vacation, and the same for Monique and even Wendy. I don't know what happens when you're not here, but perhaps there's continuity in some fashion. And Rebecca, thank you for your remarks. I think we know what you said is true, but to hear it spoken, is, I'm very grateful for that. We're all grateful. I'm grateful to be here, and, it is, something we probably take for granted, because of our district, and, the reason we can take it for granted is because we all care so much. And make decisions based on kids and families and community. And that's important. I want to also mention, thanks to Noemi and Cherie and Amir and all the folks going through the different contracts and plans that we have. Obviously, we have a fiduciary responsibility to the district. It sounds like all we're talking about now is money and contracts. We're actually here to educate people. And so the fact remains that in order to do that, we need the infrastructure and the surrounding buildings and land and facilities to make that possible. So I don't think, a lot of times people think that, we do things, how is this related to education? But of course, it all ties together. It's all part of how we educate the total child. So happy that we're going through all of this. I personally love to go through numbers, and I think this is an opportunity to really show our responsibility and show our intent, and that we can be trusted with the bonds, the bond funding, that we can be trusted with our students, and trusted with our community confidence. So that as well. We have a little bit more of the summer. We have a lot more decisions to make. That won't stop when school starts, but some of the decisions will start to be different again. So thanks, everybody, and we'll keep up the good work.
Well, happy summer, everyone. First of all, I want to start by defending my cabinet that's not here, right? I haven't had a chance. I've been out on vacation, but I know many of them are taking care of some health matters and family matters. So I want to obviously wish the cabinet the best. So do want to say that. With regards to being out on vacation, I shared with Roger earlier, as Noemi was sharing everything on the screen in terms of our bond EE update, and I was reviewing the agenda early this morning. It's amazing how much stuff is getting done. So much stuff is getting done. I'm thinking I might take another vacation. See
what we can do when you guys aren't here.
And I just want to thank my colleagues on the board, because everybody's also working on different, we're getting stuff done because everyone's working on different items, and Neil, you and I spoke about strategic planning and so forth, and the technology committee. So all this is happening because we're so engaged with the different committees. So I just want to thank each of you for all the work and effort that you're putting in. It's making a difference, and I think we're getting stuff done, and we're going to continue to stay out of your way, Blake, and keep moving forward. So I just want to thank everybody. Summer's blown by fast, and here we go. Start of school approaching fast. So the only thing I do want to do is schedule a site walk with you of all the sites here in the next few weeks, and we probably need to start talking about our board retreat that we talked about. So do want to try to schedule that at some point here as well. That's all I have.
We move to district leadership reports.
Yes.
We be speaking in the voice of reason.
Sorry, but I'm terrible. Well, I'm not, but I do think, Noemi, it'd be good if maybe Elise and yourself or Cherie and Nelson and maybe another board member would want to walk the site, especially with all the work that's getting done. I'm going to talk to that here in a second too. So maybe a good idea, so we can point out some of the major items that we've been able to accomplish this year. I'll also agree with Nelson. I mean, I want to say that it's obviously an anomaly that we have the cabinet's not here. And they have been here this summer. It's been a really busy summer. I know, Eileen's been working hard on some of the ed services, really looking at our priorities for looking at test scores, looking at assessment scores, looking at a bunch of data basically, and trying to determine, our next steps related to the priorities at the board. There were really multi-year priorities that we looked at last year. I was talking to Nelson earlier about that. We'll present those to the board again at the next meeting, just to kind of show some areas that we've adjusted or looking to adjust based on the information that we have. Nisha has been busy with hiring. I mean, it's always an interesting, checkers or chess game. I don't know, it's chess or some kind of game or strategy that goes to hiring, because there's always so much movement during the summer, and then positions open up, and it's sort of a dominoes effect. People take certain positions and you have to backfill other positions. And so it's definitely a real challenge, to be fully staffed, starting the school year, and we're not, and we're still working on that, over the next 3 weeks, assistant principal position, counselor position, teaching positions, really, particularly a math position at the middle school. So if anybody knows a math teacher that wants to teach middle school, we would love to have them. So that's certainly a challenge for us. But, and then of course, Jason, we're closing the books. We're also, we built our budget, it's our budget, and there was changes to the budget, in certain terms of what came out after the May revise. So we're looking at that, and it's just been a lot of work this summer, a lot of good work this summer. Managing facilities has also been something that's been handled, I think, really well this year. So looking, thanks to Elise for her leadership on that as well. So wanted to start with that. Now I'm going to give some specific updates. One is a signage update. We are going around our school sites and realizing that we actually need, not only we changed names, obviously, but all of or most of the mascots, or the logo, the better mascots and logos, have some association with the previous names. The Cub, for instance, at Cabrillo has a C on it. Sure, it could be alluded to that it's for Cabrillo, but it's not. It's for a Cub. I'm sorry. It could be alluded to for a Cub. It's really for Cabrillo, So scrubbing it looked kind of funny. We looked at scrubbing the C and then realized we just need to go back and redo some of our logos, if not all of our logos, make them a little bit softer, make them a little more fun. So looking at the Bulldog at former Peter Burnett for aviation, again, Cabrillo, the Eagle at ANSA, as well as the Dolphin over there at New Weismer Middle School, or the former Dana. So we are looking at that right now, and that translates into needing potentially new signage. But in talking to Noemi and talking to Elise, as we do modernization on our school sites, the marquees that we have, the lighted marquees that we have at all of our school sites are, some of them are, 15 years old or 20 years old. They're not very energy efficient. So it may be worth us coming back to the board and proposing actually just changing those out and putting more energy efficient marquees. The ones that we have now are currently very small. We may want to look at some different technology, maybe a little bit of a larger footprint. So we will bring that to the board, but we are looking at signage in general, how we could take some of the signs that we currently have and redo them, to mitigate some of the cost, and then some will just have to be replaced altogether. So we are doing that process right now. We're looking at it and have a signage company coming in to help us with that. That also leads into branding and logo design. We talked about this back in probably 2018, we took a look at school sites, or we actually took a look at our logo. And so I'm recommending, to the board, and we are looking at not only looking at the logos for each of the school sites, but also bringing back to the board a variation of a district logo that's a little simpler. Doesn't mean that this all has to disappear by any stretch. This is a good representation, a good decal, a good coat of arms, if you will. But looking at how we can, sort of make it more future focused, something that we can actually put on shirts and it's easier, or, marketing material. It's just very difficult to take that image and put it on marketing material. So we're going to come back with some options to the board. We're going through that. Actually, I had a meeting today, with Erica and another person, a designer, to look at our sign, look at our various logos and bring back 5 new ones. And so we'll bring those to the board at one point. We're going to use the principals. We'll also use, district leadership to look at our district one, obviously prior to bringing that to the board. So looking at that. Also, I wanted to thank all of those, this year we did summer school a little different. First of all, the teachers that were willing to, that chose and volunteered to do that work this summer, our office staff, we had, support staff in there supporting our students there. And as well as the administrators, we did a rotating, instead of We had administrators that are on through June and July, early July, actually rotated as administrators at summer school. So it worked actually very well. I thought it was very efficient and special thanks. I know Monique was one of those. I was one of those. And Eileen and Nisha and Jason, I mean, we just all split that. It actually worked very well. It was really nice to get on the sites. I want to say it was really fun for me to be able to kind of be a principal again, I guess, for a few days. I would suspect it was the same for the cabinet. So hopefully something that we could continue down the road, not only as a cost savings, but just as a good chance to kind of get back into the schools. Want to give a maintenance update, so bear with me. I do have to look at my screen and sort of read this. I want to highlight some of the items. I did share these with you all, and then I actually have an ask as well. But some of the things that are happening right now, you'll notice at at Aviation Elementary School, there's quite a bit of grinding of the concrete in the back there. That has to do with there was currently no power that was going to the irrigation timers. And so we had to do some trenching in order to get that fixed. And that's been going on. It's been probably a 5 or 7 year, probably more than that, maybe even a 10-year issue. So we're just trying to fix some of the issues that were there in the past. And then we're going to actually have to purchase timers. The timers weren't included in the cost of trenching and sending the electrical out there. So we'll have to spend another $1,500 or so on a couple of timers, 1,500 times 2. We're also doing some exterior painting on all of our sites. We didn't want to get into the interior too much because as we do some modernization through the bond project or the bond program, we'll actually do more of that. But we work closely with Noemi and with Elise to try and identify those areas that are just high visibility locations, that are exterior locations, the bollards and some of the fence lines, areas that were rusting. So we're going to do some pretty comprehensive painting, on the outside of all of our facilities, which is going to look really nice. We'll start seeing that. Supposed to be done by the 26th. It's not going to be done by the 26th of July. It's going to be done probably first, second week of August. But that will start here soon. Also, we have done some significant power washing. Dana was not done very well. I'm just going to be frank, and we did speak to, Elise did meet with the contractor today, walk through it again, and so they're going to go get a higher level or higher concentrated chemical so they can then respray it. They're going to spend another 2 to 3 days on top of the 5 days that they already spent there. So we may purchase a lift for there, not purchase, but rent a lift, $500, just so that we can get up into the higher rafters of some of those arches in the front, as well as the gymnasium. That's a pretty high building, and we want to make sure that we get the most bang for our buck with that power washing. So that's happening. 138th was done today. It was done very well. So we were able to walk that. We also had let me just want to make sure I get this right. About 18 trees that were replanted. 11 of them were at Cabrillo, and then another 7 of them at Dana. If you see them, they look very, very nice. We got a little larger tree, a little larger base that should withstand, some of the pressures that they face, and they look really good. So that was something, and that's already done. It was done a couple weeks ago. Last, I just wanted to share that, at Dana Middle School, we did some of the fill. I know when Nelson and Neil and I were able to walk, we pointed out some of the cracking in the asphalt. So we did do the filling of those cracks just to prolong that asphalt, make the life of that asphalt last a little bit longer. But what it did was the cracking and then the fill actually went into some of the lines, the white lines and the PE numbers that were out there. So we are going to have to go back probably for another $6,000-8,000 and actually do some repainting of some of those, the striping and repainting of some of that. So, I did authorize that today. So we'll have to bring that back to the board, or you'll see it as a ratify at a future meeting. I also wanted to share that one thing that came to my attention just about a week ago is that we've never actually fully cleaned the ducts of our ventilation system. It wasn't part of the routine maintenance program. So I'd like to add that to the routine maintenance program. And that is a pretty hefty cost at about $140,000 that's complete for all of our sites, because there's a lot of ducting. And so, but I just think it's really critical that we get in there from a health perspective. So this information is new. There was no time for me to get it on a board agenda, but if I could just get maybe some, head nods or thumbs up, I'd like to push forward with that project. We're gonna add that at least every year. We wanna clean it every year or every other year, but it's much cheaper because it's just because it hasn't been done. It's gonna, that's the more expensive piece. If we do it routine,
Yeah. with
I don't know what the, I should say that.
Ongoing maintenance.
Yeah.
If we were doing it on a routine
Right.
basis.
Right, and I said I don't know that. What I need to do is ask, so we're gonna get the recommendation from the cleaner as to how often we should do that to keep it up. So we'll do that, but right now we just need to do catch up. Yeah, so we'll, so if we can move forward with that, that'll be a standalone item on a board meeting as a ratify for quite a lot of money, but we did talk publicly here at this meeting, and so if there's no opposition to that, I'd like to move
And it
forward.
would come from the routine restricted maintenance?
Yes, it'd be RRM, yeah, sorry, chain restricted.
And
Yeah,
our
my-
balance in that account at this point.
I can send that to you. I'll send an email. I don't, but it's, we have about, we can certainly withstand this. And we're at end of year, so we're actually putting more money into,
We did this in last year's budget.
correct.
Right.
Yeah. But it would be in current year, but it was last year. It would be the balance from.
Right. Yeah, moving forward.
Right. And, sorry, I need to go back to my list. A couple items I wanted to share in terms of some events that are coming up. We do have the community night out. Night on the town that's happening on August 1st. That's next Tuesday. The district will have a table, with a canopy and
That's on the Weisberg
some
side.
materials. It's actually at the county library, yeah.
Okay.
So it'll be right next to Holly Glen. And we'll have everything set up there. I believe it's from 4 to 8. We're gonna do a little bit of, recruiting. Nisha will be there. Again, we'll be there providing information on TK, have some enrollment information and those kinds of things, but really just to be out there, in the community and be able to do that. And then on August 6th, I think Nelson and I, and maybe others were invited to attend the Chargers Chairman's Tent for their batch, everybody. So we're gonna go do that. Assuming I'm not out of town, assuming this year's not empty. There's a possibility I won't be, but if not, I will be at that as well. And it's a great support, great opportunity for us to go out and just sort
I
of,
went last year, it was great.
did you go to the Chairman's Tent? Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Was it fun?
Yeah, it was great.
All right.
It was, yes.
I'm excited. It's
Very fun.
football.
And yeah, my mom and I are planning to attend this year, so.
So we're gonna do that.
Yeah.
Where did Edgar's pass?
Email.
The charter, but Anna Spanos
Spanos,
from their
yeah.
community engagement folks emailed all of us.
Also the owner of his daughter, I think.
Right.
I think it's being fun of the daughter.
She said the chairman of the board is.
Yeah,
gonna be
yeah,
there. I'm like,
yeah.
Just like that, but it's okay, you get it.
Okay, so I think with that, just wanted to share those updates. I have nothing else for the month.
For tomorrow?
Yeah. For tomorrow. That's right.
All right.
Thanks, Blake.
Sure.
Wendy, any items from the public on agenda items?
Oh, what you guys just talked about? Is that
It's the agenda items that are,
stuff that you covered and all of that?
No, there's,
No.
this is the items that are
Oh,
like
that-
10 and below.
yeah.
I was just gonna say more compliments, but okay.
Not actually, this is for non-agendized, is that what you call it?
On
Oh,
agenda,
on agenda.
on
So it
agenda.
could be any, yes, it could be an item on the agenda.
Okay. Yes.
So it could be any item to be,
Any
it
item
could
that
be
you
any
guys
item
covered.
that's on the agenda.
Yeah, so it could be like on the special presentation
Correct,
or anything like
exactly.
that.
Yeah, sure. You guys have been here forever, so I won't take up much of your time, but I did just.
There's a little button right there, yep. It'll turn right, there you go.
I did just want to say that as somebody who's recently kind of activated in following the school board stuff, I want to say how impressed I am by all the stuff that you guys are doing and all the stuff that you're covering and the level of diligence that you're putting into looking at everything and making sure that you're thinking through it. I live across the street from Dana, and so I saw the trees. I was like, finally bigger trees. Those poor trees, they get blown down every time. All the power washing and everything happening. And so it's so cool to see it happen and then to be a part of these meetings and also see the diligence that goes into the thought as I see it implemented for the students and for the families. I also just wanted to say I did see the July 1st newsletter. It was awesome. I read the whole thing. I loved it. I loved looking at the Measure EE bond site, everything you put together. So just being able to be informed is super helpful, and it makes us in the community feel like we're a part of it. And that we can see the progress happen and also have the voice. And so I just wanted to say those things to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, consent items. Do I have a
To approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you. Thank you, Joanne. All in favor?
Aye.
I did have a question.
Oh, yeah. I thought you said aye.
No, I have a question.
Oh, sorry. Question.
It is number 10.4.
I hope I can answer it.
Oh, yeah.
10.4.
Yeah, 10.4. This was the resolution of the governing board, the wiser blah, 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 for the tax receivable. This is the delinquent tax receivable, correct? We've done this in years past, I just don't remember the answer. Is this factoring? Are we paying someone to collect this for us? Do we receive the full percentage of that which is collected, or is it discounted and we're having an agency go get this? I wasn't quite sure what the process.
So I was gonna say if there was one item that I couldn't. I figured I could have done every single other one. Let me find that out and I can write a reasonable response back to you.
I appreciate
the
that.
answer that.
And then one other comment I just wanted to make was again to thank our friends at Chevron for $65,000 donation once again this month. They're certainly great benefactors for our community.
So I have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And Blake, you'll provide that.
Sure.
You okay
And
with
then I
that,
can
Neil?
share it at the next meeting as well, just update.
All right.
We don't really have a choice. It's not collected at present. It's kind of moot.
Yeah.
But I'd like to know what the dollars and cents are.
11.1.
Next action item, general approves a settlement agreement for OAH case number 202306070. Do I have a motion?
I have a question, what's the motion?
I can motion it.
I'll second.
Rebecca, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. I just was curious whether this was a new settlement or if this was a case that had come before us before.
No, it's a new settlement. I was gonna say this is the second.
I'm sure you cannot answer Peggy is not here, but.
No, this is actually a new settlement. It kind of goes back, you know, as we've seen in the state, you saw back in the 80s when inclusion was a big thing. And then it kind of went away a little bit, and now we're seeing a big push to inclusion. This case sort of, this was a due process filed against the district for not providing enough inclusion. And so this was a settlement based on that case. I don't want to give too much information, just because but yes,
Okay.
this was actually reasonable. I thought actually looking at this, $3,100 in attorney fees is vastly lower than what it usually is, significantly lower, I should say, than what it usually is. So I think this is a win for both parties.
One other question about it, which is how long from the time that the, due process was filed to the settlement? I'm just curious what the timeline was for this, because obviously the student is continuing in school and there's some compensatory services that we're providing and things like that. So I just want to know like how long the child has been waiting or, for that.
I don't know that.
Okay.
I will get to that. I took note of that. I'll just have to ask Peggy how long that process took. I was in the loop throughout it. I'm gonna say it's been a couple months, but that again, it's just me.
I'm glad to hear it's a couple months and not like a couple years, right? Like, I mean, like, that's what I wanted to know, like.
It was a student this year.
Okay.
And actually we're making some changes organizationally to help support, not doing this again, not having to settle out on some of these and hopefully we can handle that internally. With some change. What else was I gonna say? Nothing. I think that's, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll get that for you.
All in favor?
Oh, did Joanne have a question? I thought you.
Sorry.
You took care of it.
Okay.
Rebecca, sorry, that's good.
Sorry.
Oh, aye, yeah.
We all vote. Got that, Wendy? All right, action item, facilities 12.1, do I have a motion?
So moved.
This is maintenance projects. Thanks, Neil.
Second.
Thanks, Rebecca. All in favor?
Aye.
Passed it. 12.2, award of agreement for the Del Air Elementary School minor modernization and safety and security upgrade project for architectural design services to NAC Architecture. Do I have a motion?
A motion.
Thank you, Joanne. Second.
I'll second.
Thanks, Roger. All in favor?
I just want, just for the record, at this item, at this item, I just want to say, I mean, we noticed there at the end, the revised fee results in the reduction of nearly $30,000. And I just want to point out again, thank you for constantly being diligent about negotiating and really pushing for that best, the best price or the best fee.
And we noticed you did that on another item here. Again, we appreciate that. And all we ask is 3.9 million to make the IRA thing. So we encourage you to keep up the great.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Tiny asks.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Do I have a motion for fiscal items and for 13.1 through 13.3 possible?
I'll
Yeah.
do 13.1 through 3.
Second.
I do have a comment, a question, which
Absolutely.
is, I see we're ratifying Erica's contract here, but I don't see a copy of it.
Yeah. And I was supposed to send that. I apologize. I will send that to you as well, but it is the same contract we passed. So it's more an extension to the current contract. We need more hours. So there's no change in fees, but I can send that to you separately just so you have it. There's no additional cost or no increased fees, I should say.
And so I was just curious whether the contract that we approved for the last school year was the same 80,000
Do you
or
remember
not to
what we-
exceed, but it was
we pushed up?
I know she's done more this
Yeah.
year, it makes sense, but
Yeah.
I was just curious.
And frankly, the work we ask of her is about 100 to 110,000. I mean, so it's likely we would come back. We need to start and try and manage it. But I mean, she's also rebuilding the website, which was a completely sort of an additive piece. It's not just a newsletter, but we're going to see in September hopefully September, I should say a date, a brand new website. And that's super exciting for us.
Right, so it is added hours from last school year.
It is, yes.
So, okay, that was my other question, and I also wanted to say that, I didn't see a copy of, NAZ's, presentation in the board agenda. So it was just, the item was listed, but we just didn't have an advanced copy, so it just,
Yes,
Think-
that's a really good point. Thank you, because it would help to see it in advance. We maybe
I
not
think
have so many
previously,
questions.
it just looked like it was missing here, so. Just
I
wanted
mean, I asked for it and we just didn't get it on.
Oh,
time.
right.
No, I'm-
That's it, I mean.
I'm kidding. No.
Look,
My bad, my fault. We have always included it in advance.
Yeah.
This was the only time that we couldn't, just because we had so much going on at the same time, and I
Yeah.
just finished yesterday.
It's okay. I know there was a ton of stuff happening. I just want to make sure for the public that that we update board docs so that they can
Put that.
access a copy of it, because there was so much information and stuff, so.
3.9 million, all is forgiven.
All right, that's all my comments.
Thank you, Rebecca. So, I got a motion for Rebecca, a second from Joanne, I believe. All in favor?
Hi.
I think it's fair to say that Blake needs his cabin in.
Sure.
Blake, upcoming dates, I think you already mentioned, the Wiseburn Community National Night Out coming up August 1st from 4 to 8. And that'll be at the Wiseburn Library there. Next regular board meeting, August 17th, 5 o'clock.
It'll be a busy one.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's about a month.
6 o'clock is open session, 5 o'clock is closed
Yes,
session. I think that concludes our meeting, everybody.
we do have one,
You want to close it?
we have 15 minutes. Yeah, we have a really short,
That concludes it
that's my favorite.
at 7:57 PM, just prior to 8. Thank you, everyone. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.